Most people lose control when provoked, but the intelligent ones become even calmer. You've felt it before, haven't you? Someone keeps pushing you. Small comments, subtle disrespect, repeated irritation. Not enough to explode immediately, but enough to slowly build pressure inside you. And the worst part? They know exactly what they're doing. At first, you try to ignore it. You tell yourself, it's nothing. But then it happens again, and again, and again. Each time, it chips away at your patience. And suddenly, you're no longer responding, you're reacting. That's when you lose. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you react emotionally, you hand over control. You might feel powerful for a second, raising your voice, defending yourself, but in reality, you've stepped into their game, and they've already won. It's strange, right? The person provoking you often looks calm, almost amused. Meanwhile, you're the one feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, maybe even embarrassed afterward. And you sit there thinking, why did I let that get to me? What if I told you the smartest people don't suppress their emotions? They understand them. They don't become cold. They become precise. And most importantly, they don't react. They choose when to respond. This idea isn't new. Even Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that power isn't about force. It's about control. And emotional control. That's the rarest form. See, when someone provokes you repeatedly, it's rarely random. It's intentional. It's psychological positioning. They're testing your boundaries, your patience, your identity. They want to see how easily you can be moved, like a piece on a board. And if you think about it, most people fail this test instantly. A small insult becomes a heated argument. A slight disrespect becomes a personal war. And all of it? Predictable. Almost scripted. But intelligent people, they disrupt that script. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause. Not because they're weak, but because they're calculating. They understand something most people ignore, that every emotional reaction reveals information about your triggers, your insecurities, your limits. So when you react too quickly, you expose yourself. You show exactly where you can be hurt, exactly how you can be controlled. And once someone sees that, they don't stop. They refine their approach. That's why repeated provocation feels worse over time. It's not just the action, it's the precision behind it. They're learning you while you're losing control. Now here's where it gets interesting. Intelligent people flip this dynamic completely. Instead of asking, why is this person doing this to me? They ask, what is this revealing about them? That shift alone changes everything. Suddenly, you're no longer the target, you're the observer. And when you observe, instead of react, something powerful happens. You create distance. Emotional distance. Psychological distance. And in that space, clarity begins to form. You start noticing patterns, the timing of their comments, the tone they use, the situations they choose. And slowly, you realize, this isn't about you. It was never about you. It's about control. People who provoke repeatedly are often seeking a reaction because it gives them a sense of power. Your anger validates them. Your frustration feeds them. Your reaction is their reward. So when you stay calm, you disrupt their entire strategy. And I know what you might be thinking. But staying calm feels like losing. Yeah, it feels that way at first. Because we're conditioned to believe that silence equals weakness. That not reacting means you're accepting disrespect. But that's not true. Not even close. Silence, when used correctly, is control. It's restraint. It's choosing not to play a game you didn't start. And that's power most people don't understand. Think about it. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain completely composed, no emotional shift, no visible irritation, what happens? They become uncomfortable. Because now, the script is broken. They expected a reaction, and they didn't get one. So they try harder. They push more. They escalate. And the more you remain calm, the more they expose themselves. It's almost unsettling to watch. This is where intelligent people gain the upper hand, not by attacking back, but by letting the other person reveal their intentions completely. Over time, the provocateur becomes predictable, even desperate. And here's the subtle part most people miss. Staying calm isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. You do feel it. The irritation, the anger, the urge to respond. It's all there. But instead of acting on it immediately, you hold it. You examine it. You ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Because energy, attention, emotional investment, these are currencies. And not everyone deserves access to them. Especially someone trying to manipulate your reactions. So instead of reacting, you delay. You let a few seconds pass, maybe more. You breathe not in an obvious way, but just enough to create space between stimulus and response. That space is everything. That's where control lives. And sometimes, you don't respond at all. Not because you can't, but because you choose not to. That choice, it changes how people perceive you. Suddenly, you're not easy to read, not easy to trigger, not easy to control. And in a world where most people react instantly, that makes you dangerous. But there's another layer to this. Calmness isn't just defensive, it's strategic. When you don't react, you gather information. You see more. You hear more. You notice the subtle shifts others miss. And that awareness, it gives you options. Instead of being pulled into emotional chaos, you remain grounded, centered. And from that position, you can decide, do you engage or do you walk away? Because not every battle is worth fighting. And that's something people struggle to accept. We've been taught to defend ourselves at all costs, to respond to every slight, every disrespect, every challenge. But intelligent people, they're selective. They understand that constant reaction leads to exhaustion, and exhaustion leads to mistakes, emotional mistakes, strategic mistakes. So they conserve their energy. They choose their moments carefully. And when they do respond, it's not emotional. It's precise, measured, almost surgical. And that's what makes it effective. Because when you finally speak after staying calm for so long, people listen. Your words carry weight. Not because they're loud, but because they're rare. It's like silence builds pressure, and your response releases it in a controlled way. That's power. And once you understand this, something shifts inside you. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself in every moment. You stop chasing validation through reactions. You stop playing small emotional games. Instead, you become still. Not passive, not weak, just still. And in that stillness, you realize something most people never do. You don't have to react to everything to stay in control. Sometimes, the strongest move is doing nothing at all. History is filled with individuals who understood this, not emotionally, but strategically, almost instinctively. Take Niccolo Machiavelli himself. He wrote about rulers who maintained composure, even when surrounded by betrayal, insults, and manipulation. Not because they felt nothing, but because reacting would expose weakness before the right moment. There's a story, often associated with powerful leaders of his time. A rival would provoke them publicly, hoping to force an emotional reaction. And sometimes, they said nothing, not a word. Days would pass, weeks, even. Then suddenly, when the moment was right, they acted decisively. And that's the part most people miss. Calmness isn't inaction. It's delayed action. It's choosing the exact moment when your response has maximum impact. Not when your emotions are loud, but when your mind is clear. Even Sun Tzu emphasized this idea. He understood that if your enemy can control your emotions, they control your strategy. And once your strategy is compromised, the outcome is already decided. So think about it. When someone provokes you repeatedly, what are they really trying to do? They're not just annoying you. They're pulling you out of position. They're trying to make you predictable. And predictability is vulnerability. But when you stay calm, you become unreadable. And people fear what they cannot read. They hesitate. They second-guess themselves. They start wondering, what is this person thinking? That uncertainty, it shifts the power dynamic. You've probably seen this before, maybe without realizing it. Two people arguing. One loud, emotional, reactive. The other, quiet, composed, almost detached. And somehow, even without speaking much, the calm one feels more in control. It's not magic. It's perception. We instinctively associate calmness with confidence, with authority, with inner strength. And whether it's true or not, perception shapes reality in social interactions. So when you remain calm under repeated provocation, you're not just controlling yourself, you're controlling how others see you. But let's go deeper. Because this isn't just about behavior. It's about identity. Most people tie their identity to how others treat them. If someone disrespects them, they feel diminished. If someone provokes them, they feel attacked. So they react not to the action itself, but to protect their sense of self. Intelligent people, they detach from this. Not completely, but enough to create space. They understand that someone else's behavior is often a reflection of their own state, not yours. And once you internalize that, provocation loses its emotional grip. It's like, wait, hold on. If their behavior isn't really about you, then why are you reacting as if it is? That realization alone can feel freeing, almost unsettling at first, because it forces you to confront something uncomfortable, that many of your reactions were never necessary. And yeah, I know, that's not easy to accept. But once you do, you gain something most people never experience. Emotional independence. You're no longer controlled by every external stimulus. You're not pulled into every conflict. You don't feel the need to respond just because someone expects you to. You choose. And that choice, it changes everything. Now, let's talk about something subtle. Something most people overlook when trying to stay calm. They try to suppress their emotions. They tell themselves, don't feel angry. Don't react. Stay calm. But inside, the emotion builds. It intensifies. Until eventually, it explodes. That's not control. That's delayed loss of control. Intelligent people do something different. They acknowledge the emotion. Without obeying it, they notice the irritation, the tension, the urge to respond. And instead of pushing it away, they sit with it for a moment. They let it pass through them, without turning it into action. It's a strange feeling at first, like holding on to energy without releasing it. But over time, you realize emotions are temporary. They rise and they fall. You don't have to act on every wave. And when you stop reacting to every wave, you stop being controlled by them. This is psychological mastery. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming selective, intentional, aware. And from that awareness, you gain something incredibly powerful: timing. You start to recognize when to engage and when to remain silent, when to respond, and when to let things unfold. And sometimes, silence itself becomes your response. But here's where it gets advanced. There are moments when staying calm isn't enough. Situations where repeated provocation crosses into manipulation, disrespect, or even sabotage. And in those moments, you don't just stay silent. You respond, but not emotionally. You respond with clarity. You might say something simple, direct, almost neutral. No anger, no aggression, just, firm, controlled. Like, I've noticed a pattern in how you speak to me. Let's change that. And then, silence again. That kind of response, it's unsettling because it doesn't give the other person anything to push against. There's no emotional hook, no escalation, just a clear boundary, delivered calmly. And most people don't know how to deal with that. They expect resistance or submission. But calm assertion, that's rare. And rarity creates power. Over time, people start to adjust how they treat you, not because you demanded it loudly, but because your behavior made it clear. You're not easy to provoke, not easy to manipulate, not easy to control. And eventually, they stop trying, or they expose themselves completely. Either way, you win. But let's be honest for a second. This isn't easy. Staying calm when someone provokes you once is hard enough. Repeatedly, that takes discipline, awareness, practice. You'll slip sometimes. You'll react. You'll feel that frustration rise and take over. And afterward, you might think, I lost it again. That's part of the process. Even the most composed individuals weren't always that way. They learned, they refined, they failed, and adjusted. Over and over again. So don't expect perfection. Expect progress. Each time you pause instead of reacting, that's growth. Each time you choose silence over impulse, that's control. Each time you respond calmly instead of emotionally, that's power. And slowly, it becomes natural. You stop forcing yourself to stay calm because you are calm, not on the surface, but internally. And when that happens, something shifts in how you move through the world. You become less reactive, more observant, less emotional, more strategic, less predictable, more deliberate. And people notice. They might not say it directly, but they feel it. There's something different about you, something grounded, controlled, hard to read. And in a strange way, that makes people respect you more, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. That's the quiet power Machiavelli understood. That's the discipline Sun Tzu taught. And that's the mindset you can develop. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Not for them, but for yourself. Feel the emotion, but don't rush to act on it. Observe the situation instead of getting pulled into it. And ask yourself, what response serves me best right now? Because you always have a choice. React and lose control. Or remain calm and take it. And once you truly understand that, really understand it, you realize something simple but powerful. Calmness isn't weakness. It's control in its purest form.